Hello everyone. Welcome to my yet another video on editorial analysis. Students, in this video, I would analyze an article from the Hindu, which is about government's recent decision to bail out BSNL. BSNL students, Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited. It is a state-run telecom service provider. And during the days of landline connection, students, BSNL enjoyed a monopoly in the telecom sector. It was only during the when the wireless connections came up and with the emergence of companies like Bharti Airtel and Reliance Jio, Idea, Vodafone, that BSNL lost its sheen, and it has been consistently incurring losses in the past few decades. However, students, the government has now decided to bail out and to revive the the state-run service provider, and this is primarily being done keeping in view the various socio-economic objectives that the company serves students. So, for example, BSNL has a massive presence in the rural sector students, in the rural areas, and also in those far-flung remote areas which are considered financially unviable, unprofitable by the private company. However, BSNL being a government company, it doesn't solely work on the profit making objective. And therefore, students, BSNL needs to be revived. Particularly, we all know that the government is very serious about bridging the digital gap that exists in the rural area students. And the government wants to strengthen the optical fiber network in the rural areas so that it can, provide better services, delivery of better governance, better services to the rural and remote areas of the country. So it is with this reason that it is with this objective that the government wants to revive and strengthen and bolster BSNL. So let's get started on the notes, students. Just a second. So very quickly, students, let's look at the agenda of this class, of this video, sorry. So we would first talk about the key points made in the article. Next, students, I would throw light on the India's telecom industry. We would talk about the need for revival package for BSNL, its various benefits and significance, and finally the impact of the revival package. Now, students, the article is titled Much Needed Bailout on the rupee 1.64-lakh-crore lifeline to BSNL. So the cabinet has decided to provide a rupee 1.64 trillion of lifeline to BSNL. And the article says that this is much needed help for the loss-making public sector telecommunication provider. Students, this is a commonly held view that the loss-making companies, the loss-making government companies in particular, should not be bailed out using the taxpayers' money. However, in this article, the author takes the view that BSNL indeed should be revived. And this package has come as a much needed help for the loss-making public sector company. It says that any further delay in adequately funding the main public sector company in the strategic sector risks compromising its goals of bridging the digital divide and ensuring the evolution of an inclusive knowledge society. So students, these are the few agendas, certain priorities with the government. The government, like I said, wants to bridge the digital divide. We know there is very high mobile and internet penetration in the urban areas. However, this is much less in the rural areas. So there's this digital gap, students, because of which the rural people are not able to avail the various services provided by the government to the extent that the urban people do. So students, it is to bridge this digital divide, and it is to help India. And when we say India, it means India inclusive of all its villages and the remotest of the areas, to evolve, enable it to evolve into an inclusive knowledge society, right? So students, internet plays a very important role in dissemination in the spread of knowledge, right? And if we want knowledge to reach to the remote corners of the country, to the rural areas as well, it is important that we bring back to life BSNL. Urgency of providing the crucial capital support to address the multiple financial, technology, and spectrum needs. So therefore, in order to be revived, BSNL requires crucial capital, students, to address its financial, technological, and spectrum needs. And therefore, this package is much needed. Next, students, very quickly, if we look at the performance of BSNL, so its share of wireline connections fell sharply to 28.7% at the end of May 2022, from 46.6% in October 2019, students. So that's a massive drop in the BSNL's market share. Students, however, the number of its rural wireless subscribers shrank by just 11.4 lakh. So even though its market share declined significantly, the number of rural subscribers, people living in the rural areas, that did not reduce much, students. It only shrank by 11.4 lakh, which, if you were to look at the broad picture, it is a very minuscule figure. So what does this reflect? This reflects the amount of trust the rural Indians, they place in BSNL, students, and the deep reach, the massive outreach of BSNL in the rural areas, in the countryside, students, where it still commands greater loyalty. BSNL's net loss also narrowed appreciably to 7,453 crore at the end of the fiscal year, students. So there has been, some decline in its net losses also, and this makes the government believe that any support at this point can help BSNL to come back to life. So, students, the article takes the view that acknowledging the public sector's telco's crucial role, we need to acknowledge the crucial, critical role being played by BSNL, students. And this is not just true for BSNL. In fact, there are a lot of public sector companies that are probably not as profitable as their private counterparts. But like I said, public sector companies cannot be viewed from the commercial point of view alone. They serve a very crucial socio-economic objective, students, and we cannot afford to ignore that. So this whole privatization debate and this whole criticism of the government bailing out public sector companies, I think this needs to be reconsidered. So the article takes the view that the expansion of telecom services in rural areas, right? So if the government wants to expand telecom services in the rural areas, if it wants to develop indigenous technology and disaster relief, you see, during the during any disaster, public sector companies, take it upon them. They consider it to be their responsibility to come to the rescue of the masses, right? So which any other private company would just do as a matter of philanthropy, right? Or like on the basis of moral grounds. However, public sector company, students, they count it as their responsibilities to come to the rescue of the masses, to the help of the masses during any disaster. Therefore, these companies need to be supported. Government has earmarked welcome funds for each of the chosen focus areas, including allocating spectrum, helping the provider upgrade its services, and critically de-stressing its balance sheet. Now, students, here you have to keep in mind that the government is not only providing a financial package, but this financial package is part of the overall plan to revive BSNL, which involves bringing about, managerial efficiencies as well, taking some strategic steps, and upgrading its services, strengthening the optical fiber network. And all of this would require finances, right? So the focus area would include allocating spectrum and upgradation of services and de-stressing the balance sheet. And the coming months will test the commitment and resolve of the government in marshalling the resources in a timely manner, and how crucial the state-owned company, is to overall health of the industry as a market balancer. So basically, it says that merely providing a fiscal stimulus, a bailout package will not help. They will have to marshal the resources well in a timely manner to see that it really brings about a change, a positive change. So basically, it is to spur Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited's overall competitiveness in the steep domestic telecom market. We would talk about it in a while, that how our domestic telecom market, students, it is highly saturated, and the reasons as to why BSNL is not or has not been able to do well. So it is to enhance the overall competitiveness, students, and de-stress its balance sheet that the cabinet has approved this package. Now, how significant is India's telecom industry? So very quickly, a quick snapshot about India's telecom industry, students. So if you see here, students, our telecom industry is second largest in the world. Please keep it in mind. Our telecom industry is second largest in the world. It has a subscriber base of 1.16 billion. You can keep these, note down these facts and figures. Next, students, it says that Indian mobile economy is growing rapidly and will contribute substantially to India's GDP, students. The country's overall tele density is 84.88%, students. 84.88% is the overall tele density. And over the next 5 years, the rise in mobile phone penetration and decline in data cost will add 500 million new internet users in India, students. And this is something that BSNL can leverage upon, particularly in the rural areas. However, students, now these were the positives for our telecom industry. Now this is the negative, that however, there exists a divide between rural and urban areas, rural and urban areas, that there is this gap in the tele density, students, or in terms of the telecom services. So this gap or this divide needs to be closed, students, and it is here that BSNL would play a very crucial role. So if you look at the urban market's tele-density, it is 134.70%, while that of rural market is only about 58.2%. So the gap is huge, students. And here lies the scope for BSNL to capitalize upon. Now, students, if you look at the some of the key features of our telecom industry, students. So like I said, the number of subscribers, students, the precise number 1178.41 million as of December 2021. And India is one of the biggest consumers of data worldwide. If we talk about the 5G subscription, students, India's 5G subscriptions to become 350 million by 2026, accounting for 27% of all mobile subscriptions. That means 5G is also going to grow very rapidly in India. And students, India will need 22 million skilled workers in 5G centric technologies, artificial intelligence, Internet of Things. So basically, this just tells you the pace at which the industry is growing, students. And the cabinet has also approved a production linked incentive scheme for telecom networking products under Department of Telecom. That means the government is supporting indigenization and sort of encouraging companies to expand their production and to quickly get into 5G. Next, students, in union budget, the Department of Telecommunications was allocated rupees 84,857 crore, students, and revenue expenditure was also increased, students. If you look at the FDI inflow in the telecom sector is also increasing. That means our telecom sector, students, has had a very positive growth story, and this is going to continue in the future as well, students. The picture at this point looks very rosy, and it is for this reason that the government believes that if BSNL is supported at this stage, at this point, if it is provided a bailout package, it can do immensely well in times to come. Now, students, if you look at the market share of our telecom sector, of the various telecom companies, basically. So Reliance here, students, enjoys the biggest, it has the biggest market share of 36%, followed by Bharti Airtel at 30.81%. Students, if you look at BSNL, students, it is at a minuscule of 9.90%, students, which is a very, very small percentage as compared to other big players like Airtel and Reliance and Vodafone, students. Now, students, let's talk about BSNL's performance and let's compare it with other service providers, the private service providers. Now, students, BSNL is 100% government-owned public sector undertaking, and its share of wireline connections fell sharply from May 2022 to October 2019. Its wireline connectivity, it grew by a small percentage, and its rural subscriber, students, that shrank by a very small percentage. So that is the only positive, that even though overall, students, its its subscribers have been falling drastically, when it comes to rural areas, the shrinkage is not that drastic. It's not that huge. So now, students, if we talk about the loss of subscribers, so BSNL was considered a monopoly telecommunication service provider until the opening up of the sector to private players and the entry of wireless telephony in the 1990s. So students, BSNL, like I said, enjoyed a monopoly during the days of landline connections. But when the sector was open to private players and with the emergence of wireless telephony, BSNL has been consistently losing the market share, students. And BSNL has been experiencing erosion of its subscriber base. According to TRAI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, BSNL lost over 0.30% of wireless subscribers in each month between end of April and May 2022. That means it is almost under a free fall, students. It has been losing subscribers month to month, students. At the same time, private telecom firms like Bharti Airtel and Reliance have been acquiring wireless subscribers at an average of 0.43% each month, students. So while other private companies like Airtel and Reliance have been gaining subscribers, BSNL has been losing them. And Reliance and Bharti Airtel have almost 5 times more subscribers in rural areas as compared to BSNL. So even in rural areas, students, Bharti Airtel and Reliance Jio have bigger presence than BSNL. However, we cannot ignore the presence that BSNL has. BSNL has its own share of, large number of subscribers. Now, students, if we talk about inadequate base transceiver station, students. So BTS, students, base transceiver stations, it is a device that sends and receives radio signals from mobile devices and routes them to other terminals. So basically, BTS, a company's or a brand's network, the strength of a brand's network is directly proportional to its BTS, right? So Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel have about 6 and 5.5 times more BTS respectively when compared to BSNL. That means those devices, that helps in better transmission. Reliance Jio and Bharti Airtel have more number of such devices or more number of such stations. So certainly BSNL, one reason for its poor services or not as good services as Reliance Jio or Airtel is that it doesn't have a strong infrastructure, strong equipments. So it is with this objective that BSNL needs to be revived, student, supported. So if you see, Reliance Jio has the highest number of transceiver stations, and that's the reason why it has got better connectivity. ARPU suffering students, the average revenue per user is a key metric to gauge the health of telecom firm students. Now, the average revenue that a company earns per user, it sort of gauges the strength or the health of a company, telecom company. Now, students, BSNL functions as a social sector, and this means that it has to cover all losses on capital assets through internal accruals, right? So, Bharti Airtel's ARPU, it rose nearly 23%, and that of Reliance Jio's increased by 27%. However, this was not the case with BSNL students. Now, this is hindering BSNL's ability to compete with private firms in terms of rapid technological innovation, such as transition from 4G to 5G students. So why does BSNL need a revival package, students? Now, this package is the second such package. The first package was already given in 2019, students, which was supposed to be spread over 4 years. Now, this is the second such package, and this package aims to infuse fresh capital for advancing BSNL services, right? So that they can upgrade the services, better its services in terms of quality by strengthening the infrastructure, strengthen the firm's stressed balance sheet, right, to sort of cover the losses, and expand the fiber network by merging Bharat Broadband Nigam Limited and BSNL. So there's something called BBNL and BSNL, and the government wants to merge the two. So it is with these three objectives that the government wants to, offer the bailout package. Finally, students, what is the significance of this move? How would this help students? So, students, BSNL is an Indian state-owned telecommunication company, right? Public sector presence will maintain a semblance of competition, now fast receding in the telecom space. So, students, the competition in the telecom space is shrinking, and public sector presence would sort of provide that much needed some semblance of competition. Otherwise, the existing companies would become monopolistic in nature. The entire army network, students, this is managed by BSNL. So this is also significant or crucial from the security point of view. You cannot trust a private company to manage the network of the army or the intelligence services. Even for banks, most of the network is managed by BSNL students. So banks and army, two crucial set of institutions, they are being managed by BSNL students. In times of natural calamity and man-made disasters, BSNL has often emerged as the only operator which has been able to quickly revive communication network in the affected area, students. So it plays a very crucial role during the times of natural calamity and man-made disaster, students. In fact, it is emerged as the only operator to revive communication in the affected areas. And when it comes to national security, communication network is a key element. BSNL plays an important role in connecting strategic establishment across the country, students. And this function cannot be played by any private sector. And how would this bailout package, impact BSNL? So spectrum allocation, students, right? It will be able to finance this so that it can provide high-speed data. It would enable BSNL to compete in the market. Then, students, BSNL would be able to fund its operational viability gap in the commercial impracticable rural wireline operations. So BSNL functions in certain areas where, in spite of, it is making losses, yet it functions in those areas. So it is to cover for that operational viability gap, right? Private sector is not interested in serving those remote far-flung areas. BSNL provides wireless and wireline connections in those areas in spite of incurring losses. So this package would help the company to, cover those losses and to increase the authorized capital. And finally, the revival package will help BSNL to improve services and generate a net profit by 2026-27. So it is believed that this revival package will take few years to show effect. And by 26-27, BSNL would sort of turn itself around into profitability, right? So that's all for this video, students. I will see you very soon with another video on editorial analysis. Thank you so much.